Suswagatam and welcome back to our Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga program, which we host every Sunday on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels of YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram with on every Sunday with Dr. Subramanian Swamy at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So we are back again with Dr. Swamy, and we have with us an important guest, Dr. Manish Pandit. Welcome, Dr. Pandit. And our today's topic is on the dating of Mahabharata. But before I proceed further, I would request my co-host uh, Ramesh Swamy to introduce Mr. Dr. Manish Pandit. I also have with me my other co-host, Professor Twedi. So welcome everybody to this show of Virat Hindustan Sangam, which we host every Sunday at 8 p.m. Standard Time. Ramesh Swamy will do the introduction of Dr. Manish Pandit ji.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to this show. It's going to be a very exciting show. We have with us Dr. Manish Pandit. Dr. Manish Pandit is a practicing nuclear medicine doctor in England, training program director for the West Midlands, senior academy tutor, and lecturer in Birmingham, a Mahabharata researcher and a documentary filmmaker who has made around 40 films, including 5 feature-length documentaries on politics and religion. He holds a double FRCS in general surgery and ENT with a master's from King's College in nuclear medicine. He is a past alumnus of BJ Medical College in Pune. He was the first to propagate the assertion that Krishna existed through the medium of film in 2008. He has authored 2 books, one on Krishnamurti Jyotisha in 2004. He holds the Jyotish Visharad from 1994, and the other, which investigates the astronomy of Mahabharata war, especially that related to 3067 BCE. Dr. Manish Pandit, welcome to the show. Dr. Swamy will begin the show with a brief introduction, and then there will be a dialogue between Dr. Swamy and Dr. Manish Pandit. Over to you, Dr. Swamy.
Well, I wouldn't say dialogue, it'll be question answer. he's a Gyani in this. I'm just what I should say is a consumer of his research and for my general Hindutva campaigns. Anyway, welcome, Professor, Doctor. You're such an eminent man and you're setting aside time for what is very important for nation building, the truth about us, which has been deliberately distorted by those who was over. So this was is one estimate, which I would like your opinion on and what you think about it and what kind of improvements can be made to refine and improve the estimates. The almost little after was a Jain temple in Karnataka near a town called Badami, Bagalkot. This Jain temple estimate has put it, it was in the reign of Chalukyas, where the temple was built. And the inscription by one of the kings of King Pulakeshi, second, there were two Pulakeshis, and he was the second one, was 3101 BC. Not too different, but somewhat different. Then we had archaeological evidences which came from Harappan excavations. And they, many of them, which based it on this Harappan seals and so on, have found the dates to be between 2500 BC and 3500 BC. But the Dwarka artifacts, which were also discovered later on as under the sea, put the date around 3500 BC. It's still in the 3000 range, but plus minus. But the person who discovered the Dwarka ruins underwater was the great archaeologist S.R. Rao. And somehow he took a much more, he downgraded those numbers and he put it at 1900 to 1700 BC. And I don't think that, from whatever I've seen of his calculations, they were really serious calculations as opposed to, say, Aryabhatta and so on. Now, from these estimates, we move to the question of besides Aryabhatta, are there any others you have used astronomy? When I was being ushered into this interest in, when I was teaching economics at Harvard, I suddenly ran to a book called Kota Venkatachalam's. I was amazed at what work he had done, but it was all, of course, it was not scholarly in the sense of footnotes and things like that. It was just a narration, but it was fascinating, and he had put the date as 3139 BC. And it was also based on astronomy. Later on, we had Professor C.V. Vaidya and Professor Apte, who put it at 3101 BC. So we're still running at the 3000 thing. But surprisingly, more recently, one Dr. Vartak, he placed it on October 16, 5561 BC. I have not found any in the literature, anyone, anywhere close to that. So I'd like you to comment on it if it's okay with you. And if it doesn't divert you from the main lecture that you have. There are others who use more scientific methods, the planetary software calculations by Dr. Nahari Achar, who is in the Department of Physics at the University of Memphis in Tennessee, USA. He placed it at 3,667. Dr. Ramesh Panchwag put it at 3126, and he used cyber sky planetary and jet. He was in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of the United States, and he used this software and got it. Professor Hole, who was in 2003 in Bangalore, he calculated it at 3143, still running at the 3000 range. Calculation with the Lodestar software. Professor Dr. S. Balakrishnan of NASA, he used all possible, because there were double eclipse. Like today we have double eclipse. We have one, already had one, I think we're getting one on 5th again. So double eclipse, all this 13-day gap double eclipses he sorted out, and then came to the conclusion that the dates would be, he gave a spectrum of dates from 3129 all the way to 1397. So, I mean, it was just, it's a kind of what in economics we call as taxonomic analysis, we just put out all the alternatives and then said, you choose. Now, one of the greatest myths that we have in our history is the arrival of Alexander. because he carried a historian. I mean, his army, he didn't really come here. I don't think he even crossed Persia. But he carried a man called Plutarch, who wrote whatever stories he wanted. So he was supposed to have come in 326 BC. And then you see Porus met him in Mong, and you found that most of our history is being based on this date, Alexander. The so-called meeting of Porus. I don't think we have anywhere in our scriptures, writings, history, Puranas, any mention of Porus. So it's all, I think the Greeks made it up. They were great people in making things up. But Megasthenes had come, and he wrote a book called Indica, which I've read from beginning to end. And whatever has been reproduced and put in libraries, I mean, whether it's authentic or not, but it was. So he mentions that he was in the reign of Sandracotus in India, in the capital called Palimbotra. So those who knew Greek and knew Sanskrit, they identified Sandracotus as Chandragupta. I had asked somebody, could it be Samudragupta also? But people said it could be, but nobody had done any research, and I think it needs to be done because of what I'm going to say. But Sandracotus was Chandragupta, and Palimbotra was Patliputra. But arbitrarily, the historians have made this Megasthenes narration as of Chandragupta Maurya. But in our history, we have two great Chandraguptas, Chandragupta Maurya and Chandragupta Gupta. So I had written a paper in 1968 explaining how Indian history completely changes if Sandracotus is Chandragupta Gupta as opposed to Chandragupta Maurya. And I gave reasons. One of the reasons I gave is that Megasthenes mentions so many things, but no reference whatsoever to Chanakya. Now, how can you say, about the great kingdom of Sandracotus and not mention Chanakya at all? So obviously, from that it follows it must be Chandragupta Gupta. The second thing is that Palimbotra means Patliputra. And according to our Puranas, all the kings, dynasties, from Nanda, etc., up to Nanda and then to Chandragupta. Up to Nanda, it was Rajagraha. And the first kingdom which established itself in Patliputra was the Chandragupta Gupta. And so the differences are 1,200 years. So if Chandragupta Maurya is a contemporary of Alexander, that is 326 BC, you get a different history, 326 BC. Then Chandragupta Maurya goes back, Buddha goes back even more. The history changes in a big way. So therefore, I'd like your views on this. When you have time, I mean, your main thing is on the dating of Mahabharatha, and everybody who's listening in is clued on that. You see, because they want to know the truth. Now, I would say that the most important thing for us is that when the Mohenjo-daro and Harappa was discovered, they came to a conclusion that this is a city civilization. They're nice roads, straight roads, like New York City, it's one road this way, one road this way. And it was an urban center. And Vedas, whom Max Muller dated also around 300 BC or so, a little beyond that, whatever. But by the time Atharva Veda came, it was close to 300, 400, around Buddha's time, 500 BC as the Western dating goes. Now, and then you see, Rig Veda talks about a pastoral society. So if Rig Veda was contemporary to the Mohenjo-daro, and Mohenjo-daro is destructed, the conclusion drawn is that these people were Aryans, because Aryaputra has been transformed into Arya, into a race. These Aryans came and then they destroyed this civilization. And then, of course, after that, they evolved themselves. But if it turns out that when the city civilization was there and it deteriorated, then Mahabharata dating becomes important, because Mahabharata is a city civilization. It's a highly developed city civilization. So Mohenjo-daro, Harappa become easy to synchronize with Mahabharata. So Mahabharata date is so important that the whole history of India, dating means the character of history would change. And that is why I think it's very, very important for us for the research you are doing. And I invite you to take your time and explain to us, as if we are all sitting as students in your class, telling us what the date of Mahabharata you feel comfortable with, and why, and in what way does it impact our history. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Sir, Pranam, and I'm deeply honored to be here with you, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who fought against all the dark forces in the emergency and who continues to fight long years for India, even today. And of course, we have met a long time ago. Of course, you may or may not remember, but it was 2004 or 5. And
I remember your book, though.
the book, yeah, I presented you with my Jyotish book at the time, and it was a great honor to be here. Now, right, let's get to the nitty-gritty. I'll start with, how did I ever get involved with the Mahabharata war dating?
Right.
And well, it's very odd. All my tasks, it seem to come from arguments which I have had. And this was from 2001 in Wolverhampton. I was still a surgeon at the time. And I happened to be present in the doctor's mess at 2 a.m. in the morning while waiting for a call. It was a surgical call. I was on call. And in those days, anyway, you spent your life in doctor's messes and, drinking coffee and all these sort of things. And there were quite a few people over there, as used to happen on surgical on calls. And there was a particular doctor, junior doctor there, who was from Lady Harding College in Delhi. And I happened to make something or the other was some topic came up about people's lives being in flux and people having trouble in their lives. And I happened to say that, they should definitely read the Bhagavad Gita. And this girl got up she was so incensed by what I said that she got up from the chair and she stood up and she almost shouted at me that, how can you say that, you should read the Bhagavad Gita, because we have been taught that Sri Krishna does not exist. Well, she didn't say Sri Krishna, she said Krishna doesn't exist. Textbooks are saying this, and you should be modern and progressive in your thinking, and you should also believe that. You see, it reminded me at the time of Swami Vivekananda's, words that we are being taught that fathers are fools and forefathers are bigger fools, and then there's nothing actually ever occurred, and and at the same time we're being made asses of. Actually, this is what Swami Vivekananda had said, and it sort of flashed through my mind. But there's a long, very fierce argument, and of course that had no conclusion, because I actually did not know very much about Mahabharata war dating at that time. But it stayed in my mind. And it stayed in my mind because I began to realize that this is how the next generation is thinking. That they will not even bother to read the Bhagavad Gita if they believe that the epics basically which we are brought up with, that these are actually real or not real. So then what happened is that I joined nuclear medicine after that in Manchester as a registrar, as a senior, as a specialist registrar, and later as a senior registrar. And I came across Dr. Achar's research on the Mahabharata war. And you have mentioned Dr. Vartak. I actually happened to know Dr. Vartak, and I happened to know his son, and so on and so forth. I came across Dr. Vartak's research from Pune. And so what happened is I decided to buy Redshift software, SkyMap Pro software, and look into all of this myself. And within around 6 months, I realized that Dr. Vartak's dates were not fitting with the positions of Jupiter, Saturn, actually nothing. I'll come to that bit later. Dr. Achar's positions, prima facie, fitted the data almost exactly. Around 4 years later, I conceived the film Krishna History or Myth. I wanted to have a true and accurate research study in my film. There's no point in taking something which is going to be easily debunked. That is highly important. So and the film was made after considerable hurdles. And the cameraman got severe backache and left the morning when the shoot was to start. But eventually the film was made, and after further hurdles, it was shown in 2 years later in live India. And the hurdles which I faced in showing my films in India, they sadden me. It saddens me even today. There's a huge bunch of leftists who don't want our voices to be heard. The left labels Hindus. It badmouths us constantly. It tries to keep us quiet. It silences our voice as far as it is possible. And of course, it slanders us. This has been happening for a very long time. I was very fortunate to show the film, and Live India was very, they were very generous. They showed the film for 6 months nearly. So this made sure that the film got everywhere, basically. Unfortunately, of course, I've now seen that people on our own side also emulate the same leftist behavior and malign me and other scholars, and including dead scholars like Srinivas Raghavan. There's no point in maligning, old and dead scholars. I mean, really. I came from a poor Brahmin family, and I came here 28 years ago, and I'm doing reasonably well for myself. But I sometimes, in the past, have wondered whether I should even bother with all these things, because, we've been maligned, we've been called juvenile, fraudulent, asses, I mean, whatnot. But then I look at you, Dr. Swamy, and of course I read the Bhagavad Gita and see that, you have to fight for the truth, and you too are fighting for the truth despite being labeled by anti-national other forces, and despite that you keep fighting. You are an inspiration. So, I mean, that's my, anyway, I just wanted to say that before I sort of get into what exactly is Mahabharata and why Mahabharata is so important. Now, Mahabharata is the sheet anchor of Itihasa. It is Itihasa. In our traditions, we never refer to Mahabharata as anything else other than Itihasa. So it happened. It happened is the thing. And why is Mahabharata so important? Why is it so important? You see, if you look at all the leftist scholars, they have all tried to say Mahabharata. Romila Thapar and all these people, even Meadows and a couple of other people have tried to say that Ramayana is happening after Mahabharata, and all these sort of stupid, utterly stupid, mindless theories, or Buddha, what recently you heard that Yudhishthira is deriving something from the Buddha. I mean, these people, I'm afraid they have lost the plot completely. They've lost their marbles, and they don't have a foot to stand on. I mean, this is absolute nonsense. They have tried to destroy evidence also, I'm sure. You see, just by whitewashing, just ensure that the evidence never comes out. Now, I want to present a few bits of evidence to, so that, because, I'm sure there are a lot of people watching, and I'll be happy to put those some of those slides out as well later on, so that people come to know what are the facts. So first and foremost, I want to present, because the Aryan invasion thing is based on 1500 BC. They said before that there are no horses.
Yes.
This is a load of tripe. This is the load of nonsense. And there is the Surkotada horse. And this is been discovered basically by Indian archaeologists by the name of Mr. A.P. Sharma, 1971 to 1972. And this is an amazing story. It remained neglected for the next 20 years. And in fact, a celebrated, eminent, like eminent historians we have, the same way celebrated archaeologist Richard Meadow commented in 1987 to reject Mr. Sharma's claim altogether. And he said that this, based on the phalanx, he says, from the published photographs, this horse of Surkotada is, and he's making an ass of us really, but he said is likely almost certainly a half ass, and by a large one. I mean, what nonsense! He was making asses of everybody. And but you see, this is the traditional way we are getting, fooled, and people are making fools of us. You see, and they made a fool. 20 years. 20 years went by, and then, well, satyameva jayate, as they say. But and satya always comes out, but it may come out late. Who can cover the sun? So Hungarian archaeologist Sandor Bokonyi was passing through New Delhi for a conference. And then he examined the bones excavated at Surkotada, and he declared at the conference in unequivocal words, and I quote, the occurrence of true horse, which is Equus caballus lin, is evidenced by the enamel pattern of the upper and lower cheek and teeth, and by the size and form of incisors and phalanges. And since no wild horses lived in India in post-Pleistocene times, the domestic nature of the Surkotada horse is undoubtful. Now you see, that was a big blow for all the Aryan invasion people. It was like I mean, that was horrible. I mean, they must have felt that they should all, the earth should swallow them up, and that they should all die collectively, but they didn't. They came out with further theories after that. In fact, the same archaeologist Boconnier then went on to actually publish this, and he said that there is no doubt that this was horse. And the importance of this is from 2000 BC. This is the first piece of evidence I wish to put forward, because this single thing is debunking Aryan invasion pretty much, because this is the thing on which Aryan invasion is based. Number one,
Founded on it, yes.
this is a highly important, and it is, it's there. Okay. Then S.R. Rao, who you mentioned. Now S.R. Rao, absolutely, he went into Lothal, and he got the huge Harappan port over there. He found that it had a large dock, it handled cargo, it serviced ships, and he made the discovery of two figurines of terracotta horses. And one of the horses had a short, stumpy tail, a long neck, and pricked ears. And so then that was also definitely, there is no question that that was also there. So the horse theory is gone now. Now the next the Aryan invasion people came out with was, they said, no, 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 no. The spoked wheel, this spoked wheel is higher than a solid wheel, and this sort of argument they came out. So then what happened is, unfortunately for them, the Kalibangan and Rakhigadi terracotta models of the chariots were found, and they show the spokes in the painted form, whereas the there is a Banavali site that was showing it in a lesser sort of a relief. It is not properly painted, but it is still there, and it is spokes. So again gone, again debunked. Okay. Now, anyway, now they didn't have anything to sort of come up with. So then they said, no, 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 no. Now you guys, you Hindu guys, you just, you need to stay to one side, and, need to keep yourselves, below our feet, where you're supposed to be. So, can painted gray ware be a parameter? So painted gray ware they came up with, and they said, no, painted gray ware, maximum 1500 BC, 1400 BC, this sort of stuff. And then they said, and of course, unfortunately, we had a couple of archaeologists also who came up with 900 and 1000 BCE dates based on middle Vedic period. so what they call middle Vedic period, really, because Vedas are apaurushia. There's no question of assigning date like this to Vedas. Is just laughable. But
That's right.
anyway, and then Dr. Bibilal also, unfortunately, you see, Bibilal, who's actually a very good archaeologist otherwise, but the problem is you're only good as how much what you can excavate and what you
Yeah.
actually find in those sites.
Yes.
So he excavated 5 villages initially: Panipat, Sonepat, Bagpat, Tilpat, Indraprastha. And he thought on basis of PGW, so painted grave pottery, that the date of Mahabharata is 900 BC. And there is a possible flood data based on descendant of Parikshit, etc. But is he correct? Is he correct is the question. Now, here is the thing. In 2013, University of Cambridge and BHU excavated at Alamgirpur near Delhi. So the earliest painted grave levels, the sample OXA 21882, showed calibrated radiocarbon dating from 2136 BCE right down to 1948 BCE. So now you're taking it to that 2100 BCE already, okay? And then there are two other datings which were published, and that is in Compil excavation. So the Compil excavations are publishing as 2310 BCE and plus or minus 120 BCE. So even 2400 BCE now you're taking it. So this is the first thing. So the difference between the traditional date of Mahabharata of 3000, 3100 BCE tradition and archaeology is now just a mere 600-700 years.
Okay.
So this is the first and foremost point which I want to make as far as the archaeology. Now, the question is, can we say that the painted graveware is just, the question that we have not excavated the ruins properly and that further excavations need to be done, which is now not possible because of the huge population density which we have now acquired in India. So the question is there a smoking gun? And there is a smoking gun. And that smoking gun was found in Larkana. Now, in 1927 to 1931, Mackay, one of the celebrated archaeologists, he actually excavated Mohenjo-daro. And when he excavated Mohenjo-daro, he found 2000 BC to 2200 BC. Amazing, amazing discovery for us in Mahabharata research. This is an unparalleled find of Lord Krishna, Yamal Arjuna episode. And you see, he was an honest person. He actually said it was Yamal Arjuna episode.
Sure.
And so this is the thing. You see, this is the thing about Mackay, that he didn't say, no, these could be fairies from England which have migrated, or United States which have migrated to Pakistan, well, present day Pakistan, but Hindustan, whatever it is. He didn't say anything like that. He didn't make up anything like all the Aryan invasion people. He actually said, no, this is Yamal Arjun episode. And I'm sure, you see, he must have known what he was saying is having such a tremendous, it's a bombshell of such proportions for Indology. The Indologists would have been shocked by that single discovery, you see, because now that site, you see, of Mohenjo-daro, which is quite close, by the way, to Lothal and all these places, is 2000 to 2200 BC. In fact, 2200 BC is that particular thing. It is there in his report in part 1, pages 344 to 45. And the plate is also there of that thing, which I can show a bit later. Now, what is the importance of this? The importance of this is there is a cult of Bhagavata Dharma, which has already been established in 2200 BC. In 2200 BC, the question of Aryan invasion doesn't arise.
Yes.
Now everything has to be looked at because this is a smoking gun. See, now we have something which is a steatite or soapstone tablet. So the question of this nonsensical 1000 BC, 1400 BC, 1300, 1400, 1500 BC, all this has to go. Now we have to straight away go at least 1000 years, 600, 700 years now for that sort of cult to be established, of Krishna worship. So this is my first and foremost point, and this is a Larkana district, which is now in Sindh in Pakistan, and it is still there. This particular artifact is still there in Pakistan, And actually, we should try and get it over here if it is possible, at least for display. This is the first point.
Right.
My second point, which I want to say, so that is Krishna worship is already established in 2200 BC. And the other point is the pillar of Greek ruler Heliodorus, which is of particular importance to us from Bhagavad Dharma point of view, that he is a Greek convert. So he's a convert to Bhagavad Dharma. And what
Sure.
Bhagavad Dharma, you see, because this becomes very important, because up till now we are all saying, well, no, Hindus, they should not indulge in conversion, to convert others. But actually, I am saying, well, yeah, look at this now. So this is the Vasudeva cult. There are 5 heroes. And who are those 5 heroes also? This is also important to establish. There are 5 heroes: Krishna, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Samba, Aniruddha. It's amazing. Krishna, I'll repeat again for all the viewers. Krishna, Sri Krishna, Balarama, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, first son, Samba, second son, Aniruddha, grandson. And why? Why? Now, this is important. Is because these are warriors whose ability has been tested in the Mahabharata and
Yes.
who can penetrate. Now, we all have heard about the Chakravyuha in which Abhimanyu got stuck.
Yes.
And of course, his bow was cut from behind, and then he was attacked by multitudes of warriors, and that's how he died. But Pradyumna, Aniruddha definitely documented in Mahabharata to be able to penetrate the Chakravyuha and come out.
Yes.
So they are and of course, Sri Krishna, of course, knows everything. So there's a question there that doesn't arise.
Yeah.
So this is my first and foremost thing. So now we have got Vasudeva cult from Heliodorus also, which is later on, of course, a bit later on. But we have got earlier on the steatite tablet, which is establishing. So now we are firmly established archaeologically. Now we don't have a barrier of this 3000 BC, what the traditional archaeologists are basically proposing. That is gone. So that is my first and foremost point, which I want to make. Now, let's go on to the more important sort of the astronomy dating. Now, why astronomy has become so powerful now is partly because that sort of area of Pakistan and Afghanistan and all that. Well, I don't know how much excavation is even possible, and even if you find anything, whether we will actually be able to own it. Actually, we'll even come to know whether it was found or not. It may be destroyed, and as we have seen, the Bamiyan Buddhas were destroyed, and so almost certainly other things also must have been destroyed in the same manner. And this is highly unfortunate for science, for archaeology, for continued tradition. This is all going to be a real problem. So my first thing which I want to come to is something called, which I'm sure all of you must have heard of, is the Arundhati Vasishtha observation, because this has caused a great deal of magical controversy. And Vartak and there are a few other researchers also who came up with this particular thing, and they sort of said, well, no, this is a really important observation and you've got to pay it great attention. And so I will just very quickly go over this bit of it. So what does the verse say? Yachesha Vishruta Rajas Trailokya Sadhu Sammata Arundhati Taya Pesha Vashishta Prishtatakrata. This is from chapter 2 of Bhishma Parva, verse 31.
Yes.
Now, the thing is, the first thing to establish is what exactly is this verse? Is this verse which is talking about Arundhati Taya Pesha Vashishta Prishtatakrata? Now, Vashishta Prishtatakrata has been taken by researchers like Vartak and others to mean that the Arundhati is going ahead of Vashishta. And Arundhati, because her name itself is Arundhati, so coming from the Rundhe is the to obstruct, and Arundhati, one who never obstructs the husband's path.
Yes.
Of course, this is only for viewers. Dr. Swamy knows all this anyway.
No, no.
I'm sure.
No.
But so what it is that this particular observation, is it a observation happening for thousands of years,
Yes.
or is it happening momentarily, transiently? This is the question. And for this, it is highly important to know the context of the verses which are happening before. But before I come to that, does the Mahabharata explicitly, specifically mention Arundhati Vashishta as just a nimitta in those words? And here's the verse. Iha yuddhe maharaja bhavishyati mahankshaya yathemani nimittani bhayaya dyopalakshaye. Smoking gun. I like these verses because they are establishing the primacy of what we are trying to say. So there is the verse 16, which is occurring just 14 verses behind in the same chapter. And it is saying very clearly, Arundhati Vashishta is only going to be a nimitta, because all the verses occurring, this is Sri Vyasa who is telling Dhritarashtra that, look, I am going to tell you the things which are nimittas, which are omens which are occurring. So he's only talking about that. So this is the first and foremost thing. And therefore, if anybody is applying, for example, things like Karl Popper and all these things to a nimitta, which is an astrological phenomenon, then the question doesn't arise. Because Karl Popper himself, in his own words, says that the question of putting all these things as a falsifier does not arise, because it is an astrological phenomenon. That is so. This is the first and foremost thing. The second thing is, how many people are actually believing in this statement as a falsifier? Vartak may be believing, maybe a couple of other people may be believing, but nobody else is believing. So what the problem is, that to qualify as a falsifier under a scientific theory of Karl Popper, then it has to be accepted as consensus by the scientific community. And if it is not accepted by as a consensus, then the question of this being a falsifier does not arise.
So to what date are you now in a position to ascribe the Mahabharata?
Right. So now straight away the maximum limit of this particular observation, if it is being taken as astronomy observation, is basically 4500 BC at the most. So you cannot go beyond that now. So that is one thing. And in fact, if you apply some slightly more complicated mathematics, then you know that actually 3500 BC becomes the limit for Mahabharata. Just based on this, right? So this is my first point on Arundhati Vashishta, which that is done. And the verses before and after, I mean, everybody knows that those are also very, very. There's no question of those being anything more than a nimitta. Right. Now the question arises, how then can we put some more detail into Mahabharata dating?
Yes.
And for this, now we look at the verses of Saturn and the verses of Mars and the verses of Jupiter. Now, the thing is, there are only actually 4 verses which are dedicated to Saturn. And 3 verses are dedicated to Jupiter, and a couple of verses are dedicated to Mars. Now, what has happened, I'll tell you, 110 researchers plus 4 verses, 2 of those verses, Prajavatyam hi nakshatram grahastikshno mahadyati shaneshchara pidayati pidayan praninodikam and Rohinim pidayanesham sthito rajan shaneshchara. Udyoga Parva 141.7, Bhishma Parva 232. These are the 2 verses, which are both pointing to Saturn at Aldebaran Rohini. This is a impossible thing in the rest of the Mahabharata, because in the rest of the Mahabharata, no other planet is having this luxury. That Mahabharata, 2 books of the Mahabharata, 2 principal characters of the Mahabharata are actually saying that Saturn is in this, that any graha is in same position according to 2 verses. This is not happening. Saturn, therefore, so these are 2 verses out of the 4 which are saying that Saturn is at Rohini. This is the first and foremost point.
Yes.
Then there are 2 other verses, and there is one particular verse which has caught the imagination of a lot of people. And I just want to spend 2 minutes on that.
Yes.
And that is that Samvatsara Sthaino cha Graho Prajulitavubhav Vishakhayo Samipastho Brihaspati Shaneshcharo. I'll come to the possible meanings of this verse in a moment. But what it means is that supposedly at Vishakha, although the Vibhakti is not correct, Vishakhayo actually is not the right vibhakti for it. But still, let us accept for a moment that this is saying that Brihaspati and Shaneshchara can be at Vishaka for a full year. Now, straight away, we are landing up at a problem that Brihaspati actually cannot be at one nakshatra like Vishaka for a full year. This is
Yes.
our first problem, because normally it will be a few months and then it is gone.
Yes.
And the problem with this particular verse is also that the verse which is coming before it, which is Grahau Tamrarano Shikhau Prajwalatavubhau Saptarishi Udaranam Samavachhadyavai Prabham.
Yes.
Now that is a tremendous observation, because what does the verse say? These two grahas who are being described in the next verse as Brihaspati and Shaneshchara are having inflamed or ignited shikhas,
Yes.
and they are having shikhas and they are penetrating the Saptarishis or obscuring the Saptarishis.
Yeah.
And we know that the distance between Vishakha Nakshatra and Ursa Major or Saptarishi is so huge, it's so huge that it is impossible that this particular thing can occur. So now
just one interruption.
Sorry.
Our audience is willing to learn, but
it may be a bridge too far.
You're now reaching a level of scholarship which is in the realm of research.
Okay.
What essentially I would like you to now tie it down to is your view as to when the Mahabharata war started and ended. Of course, it was supposed to have taken, I think, 18 days.
Right.
So get to what you think in view of all this extensive research you've done, the date of Mahabharata, and then what does it mean for our history in terms of Aryan-Dravidian theory, in terms of which dynasty was ruling after Mahabharata and before Mahabharata, that sort of thing.
So let us get to that. So the date of the war has to be 25th of November of 3067 BCE.
3067.
3067 BCE.
Yes.
Now the problem which some people, and the war will last 18 days and it has to end on a Shravana Nakshatra and a Amavasya on the 12th of December of 3067 BCE.
Yes.
So 25th of November to 12th of December. This is our 18 days of Mahabharata war.
Yes.
So this is as far as that is concerned.
Yes.
Now this has certain interesting points of view from the viewpoint of our audience.
Yes.
One is that Saturn at Rohini. Saturn is at Rohini in this particular Mahabharata war proposal. Saturn at Rohini has got a tremendous connotation with doom. It is well known to be a doomsday position for Saturn. In Jyotishis all fear it. It is a fear, one of those things which has got legendary status.
Yes.
And why has it got legendary status? Because I think it will arouse the interest of people who are listening.
Yes.
Rather than me getting into all these other things.
Yes.
So let us go into when previously Saturn has been at Rohini.
Yes.
And 9/11, Saturn at Rohini, and in fact, Saturn at Rohini, and what is the amazing crazy thing is that Saturn is about to retrogress, is about to go Vakragati just a few days before 9/11. And so that has occurred at that point. In fact, in that year, one more position of the Mahabharata which occurred just a few months before that. You must have heard of the Crown Prince of Nepal.
Yes.
And the Crown Prince of Nepal who assassinated his entire family of royals. And of course, there were royals as well, which is the interesting thing is that the entire royal family of Nepal was assassinated. And it was the Crown Prince.
Yes.
And in the Mahabharata, it is the Crown Prince Duryodhan who is, by his actions, causing the destruction of the entire Kuru race.
Right.
Royals. And what is that position of Mars is that Mars retrogression just before reaching Antares, and that is described by Karna to Krishna.
Yes.
Karna Krishna Sambhada, which is occurring in chapter 141, Udyoga Parva, verse 7 and 8, is basically saying, Kritva Changarako Vakro Jesthaya Madhusudana. He actually describes the positions. So, but the interesting thing there is that the odd yes, synchronicity you're getting. That look over here, it was Duryodhan. There it is this other crown prince, and this is the same year. Okay, now let us go further behind. When previous to this, in the last century, did Saturn come to Rohini? And Saturn at Rohini happened during the Bangladesh War. So that is again, it's almost an amazing, unbelievable thing which has occurred at that point of time, and is a genocide of unbelievable proportions which has occurred.
Yes.
And Saturn at Rohini has got this sort of it has got this status that it is feared for this reason. You go back behind that another 29 and a half years, and you end up with Saturn, which is again at Rohini, and this time, of course, it is the Battle of Stalingrad.
Oh,
And
right.
it is quite amazing. You see that
Yes.
the commander of the Panzer Division, who is
Yes.
there,
Yes.
this commander of the Panzer Division is within striking distance of Moscow. He's
Yes.
seeing the spires of the Kremlin, and
Yes.
then he is told by Hitler that no, 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 you have to go south to Kiev.
Yes.
And
Correct.
you see, he says no, 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 no. And it's a huge fight. If you go into the records of World War II,
Yes.
you find that that this Panzer commander then fights. He's the same guy who got them Belgium. You see, and he fights and fights with Hitler, but nothing ever happens. And the outcome is zero.
Yes.
And in the end, what is happening is he's coming to the sorry situation that he goes to Kiev, and 30 days later, the Russian winter starts.
Yes.
And the Russian winter starts, and the panzers freeze in their tracks,
Yes.
and the whole German army is
Yes.
destroyed.
Right. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, Saturn at Rohini. Okay, and this is the only example I think in that World War history where the losing army has actually lost lesser number of soldiers as compared to the army
That's
which
right.
has won
That's
nearly
right.
250,000 soldiers.
Yes.
And
Correct.
then and of course, the other interesting thing is of iron.
Mm.
So that proved to be more effective against the tanks because I mean the guns froze as well.
Right. Right.
So they
Right.
couldn't
Right.
fight with anything else.
Right.
So, and then you go back to World War One, and World War One, first few months of World War One, also Saturn was at Rohini. And this way you can keep going back 29 and a half years, and you'll always find the Saturn is at Rohini. Of course, Saturn is coming to.
What caused Corona, according to you?
So this is now is a very interesting point you've asked me. So Saptarshi Udaranam Samavachhadya Vaiprabham says that verse which we just talked about before verse 325 at Vishakha. And so the Saptarshis are getting obscured or actually bisected, or it may be penetrated by something. It could be either the two grahas which are like comets. And the interesting thing is, and I wrote an article on this I think it was in January or February. It was brought to my notice by somebody else, and then I actually looked at the new Cyber Sky software.
Yes.
And there's Comet Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And Comet Atlas, unfortunately, does a retrograde path. It became much brighter than what it was expected. It bisected, transected the Saptarishis.
I see.
Went all the way through the Saptarishis, backwards, all the way to near Aldebaran. And from Aldebaran, it actually turned and then went the other way, finally. And that was that Bhayanak period of that December 19th of last year to approximately April 15th or April 20th. And the huge number of casualties which occurred were in that particular period huge, and it was this fear was quite tremendous. And Saptarishis, you see, have got a very peculiar sort of a signification and connotation in India, as I'm sure everybody knows. Saptarishis are, the guardians almost of the universe of India, whatever it is. So their penetration by anything or even affliction by something else, whatever it might be, and it is because of the peculiar nature of how the Saptarishis are away from the ecliptic. can really only be by comets, although some people have theorized that, some other things can cause it,
Right.
like meteors also can cause it, for example.
Right. Right.
So, but that happened during that period. And I had I wrote an entire blog on that actually. And I said that, there will be a reduction in the fatalities at that sort of time, in June, when it sort of goes around the corner of
Yes.
Aldebaran, which is Rohini,
Right.
which sort of happened,
Right. But
so
but you see an extended period for the corona then?
there are two things. So there are two viewpoints which I want to put forward.
Yes.
One is because my problem is because I'm a medical
Yes.
person. You
Yes.
see, the so for a Jyotishi, it is best that they are not medics or anything of this sort, because the problem is, you see, there is a huge amount of information which we unfortunately carry around in our heads, and it is very difficult to unsee death. And we medical people, unfortunately, what is happening to us is that uh, when we are seeing things, because of our training, and because we keep seeing death on so many occasions, we become colder. We become emotionally more, how to put it. It's not that we don't feel. We feel very deeply for the patients and all that, but
Yes.
our own response is so different to everybody else's response,
Yeah.
and it's in our heads. You see, this death is got a
Yes.
very different connotation to us. I mean, I know, just very quickly, I know a few people who are within the medical field who fell ill with coronavirus.
Yes.
Their responses were so different to the normal person, because normal person was paralyzed with fear.
Yes.
But these people were like, well, if you have to go, you have to go. And well, I mean, I wonder what the physiology of it is. And this person on the phone with me, is coughing, and I wonder whether it's actually causing clots in my lungs as we speak, is what his sentence was. So there's a bit of coldness within us. And also what therefore happens as a Jyotishi, it becomes very difficult to sort of give a
Yeah.
answer which is purely intuitive.
Yeah.
Which is purely intuitive. But here
Ramesh,
is
Ramesh, you want to say something?
right.
Ramesh?
Tell me. Right. Ah, yes. Perfect. Right. Okay. So Bhishma Moksha, I think, thank you very much. Yes. Bhishma Moksha is highly important. Highly important. And why is it so important? There are just 2, 3 verses which I want to bring into this discussion. The first verse is Saniryo Gajapurat Dhyajake Parivaritaha Drishtva Nivrittamaadityam Pravrittam Chottarayanam. Now, I mean, this is a verse which is basically saying, the second part of the verse is saying, Drishtva. Yudhishthir saw. What did he see? Nivrittam Adityam. That Aditya got released. That sun got released. Nivrittam Adityam. Pravrittam Chottarayanam. That the Uttarayan has started. But what every other researcher, I mean, most researchers have not taken into consideration what exactly is the implication of this verse. The implication of this verse is that Yudhishthir, on the day of Bhishma Moksha, is seeing Uttarayan happen with his eye. So Uttarayan has to be observed. Now, this is a thing which struck me after 6 months or 8 months, suddenly bolt out of the blue. And what it is, what is the importance of this? Because winter solstice, when the Earth's axis is farthest away from the sun, today occurs December 21st. And when is Uttarayan occurring? Visible to the eye, I mean. And it is a very old tradition. This Uttarayan visible to the eye is occurring only on the fourth day after that. That is highly important because it's only on the fourth day after that that Bhishma Moksha can occur, not on the day of winter solstice. Every other research, you'll find so many researchers, first day of winter solstice, whatever the computer has calculated, or the next day. And this winter solstice in 3066 BCE, the year after the Mahabharata war, is occurring in January 13th. So the first day when Uttarayan can be observed with the eye is January 17th. So this is high. This is the one of the most important observations which is there. There is also verse 26 is there. Now, exactly. Now here comes the crux of this. So there are two verses which are there in the Mahabharata, but the one verse which I want to just point out is Shukla Pakshasya Chashtamya Maghamasasya Parthiva Prajapatye cha Nakshatre Madhyam Prapte Divakare. There is this is a verse from Gita Press edition. It is chapter 47, verse 3, which is clearly mentioning Shukla Paksha, Shukla Pakshasya Chashtamyam Ashtami Maghamasasya Parthiva Maghamasa Prajapatye cha Nakshatre. So it is saying Rohini Nakshatra clearly. And what is even worse, I mean, this is such a rigorous condition. Prajapatye cha Nakshatre Madhyam Prapte Divakare at midday. This is a huge rigorous condition. So on the day of Bhishma Moksha, it needs to be Magha Shukla Ashtami with Rohini Nakshatra at midday. Now, you can see how this is a combination which does not occur. I mean, I have looked into it. On the fourth day, you will find it so difficult to get this combination on any year of the, a fourth day after winter solstice. It is very, very difficult. And most researchers just say it's a conflicting observation and they conveniently get rid of it and take their Bhishma Moksha into another month or whatever it is, or interpret the other verses as they wish. So this is my. Yes, so 3067 BCE, and the year after that is 3066 BCE, which is the year of Bhishma Moksha. The winter solstice is on January 13th, and January 17th at midday is basically Rohini Nakshatra with. I mean, I've got the slide over here, in front of me over here. But anyway, I think it's there in my book, and everybody can read the book also. But the verse is there, and everybody, I think, on Twitter has come to know that there is this verse which is there, which is actually saying Magha Mas very clearly. So because people are saying Falgun Mas and all this sort of thing, you see, so that cannot be changed. Exactly, because if Vyas said it, then I can't say that no, I'll take my own month of Bhishma Moksha.
I have one question, which is a very pedestrian question. But then I know a lot of people keep asking me this, so I'm going to ask you. How does it matter in our perception of our history whether Mahabharata is 3067 or 1155 or 5500 BC?
Right. See, in mathematics, because you're one of the great mathematics brains out here, Dr. Swamy. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Unfortunately, you see. So this is my this is my first point in favor of coming to the sticking to whatever we have actually got within the Mahabharata. So that, for example, the thing of saying that Arundhati Vashishta is a nimitta. It is not that I am applying a filter in front of my eyes and saying that no, 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 let us take it as a nimitta. Sri Vyasa is saying nimitta. Also, we are having this verse Shukla Pakshasya Chashtamam Maghamasasya Parthiva. And on top of that, there is another verse Maghoyam Samanuprapto Masa Punya Yudhishthira Tribhagashesha Pakshavam Shuklo Bahitur Marati. So that is the other verse, but this is clarifying. So two verses are there now, which are saying Maghamas. So when two verses are there of Maghamas, it becomes important. Now, why is it so important to get the right here?
Yes.
Now, if I say 1100 BC, or when I made Krishna history or myth, people told me, don't. First of all, they told me you must name your film Krishna the Myth. That was the first thing which Ministry of External Affairs told me, and otherwise they wouldn't give me the shooting permission at all. Then eventually I had to threaten them, that I will, because my father knew the minister at the time. So I said, no, I will go and fly over here and I will, XYZ. Then they finally gave it to me on the phone. Anyway, but the point is, the most important reason why all these people want 2183 BC, 200 BC, whatever date, but earlier to that Aryan invasion business, they want to all corroborate and say Aryan invasion is
Took
there,
place.
or Aryan migration is there, or I don't know, Aryans are
Yeah.
flying on wings or fairy tales, and this nonsense
Yeah.
which has been propagated, and they want to keep Indians under their boots where they should be, according to because a lot of people still have that sort of a mentality, you see, unfortunately. So they all
Yes.
want to keep Indians in that sort of boat. And now that all this evidence is coming out, the rice growing is also now
Right.
becoming a problem for them, and the chariots are coming, and everything is now becoming, the astronomy is coming out. Now it becomes a problem. Now, what
Okay.
about shifting it backward? Why should we not shift Mahabharata? Let's make it as old as possible. 10,000 BC also. What's the
Mm.
problem?
Mm.
Now there is a problem here, because the issue what happens is that we have to be taken seriously. When we because there's a lot of scientists who are also compassionate towards us. In the West, in Russia, in even in China for that matter. I mean, there's a lot of scientists who are compassionate towards us. Yes, and if we tell them that no, Mahabharata is occurring in an age when is no possibility of that ever occurring in that at that point of time, then we are making a laughing stock out of ourselves, and we will not be taken seriously.
Yeah.
See, at this point of time, when we have come into our own, when we have actually got power, what I'm saying is that India is now a free country, right?
Okay.
So, and we are starting to come out of the clutches of Western Indology.
Yes.
If at this stage we take the wrong date, then it becomes a problem.
Sure. Dr. Manish, 1 second. So the other question now, what about the lunar eclipse thing? Because we just want to
Right.
bring it down to a date. So just because we are going past our time, so I want you to compress it. So we tell to our audience saying that this is the date based on 3 important points or 4 important points, so that then we can have an end to the program. That's why.
Right. So the thing is that there are 3 eclipses which are occurring before the war, which is like the 3 eclipses which are occurring over here, which are 2 Aparvani, eclipses, basically the lunar eclipses, and then the middle solar eclipse. Like that, we are having the September 29, 3067 BC lunar Aparvani eclipse, the 14th October 3067 BC solar eclipse, the October 28th, 3067 BC penumbral, again lunar Aparvani eclipse, and what is not which is very difficult for anybody else to do is the Aparvani eclipse is 36 years later at the Yadava Civil War 3031 BC, October 20th, November 5th, November 19th, and these are all corroborated. I have got them all. I show them all routinely in my workshops to
Right.
people. So
that also fixes
eclipses,
that at this year. So those 3 eclipses also fix that year to be 3067 BCE.
well, the eclipses are never used as primary evidence. You see, eclipses
Okay.
are not used as primary evidence. The primary evidence is always planetary positions, the timelines of the war. You see, the timeline of the war and the pilgrimage. You see,
So
those
when
have to
does
be.
the war? So the war has to. And plus, you also said that one other point that you've been mentioning is about Balarama's pilgrimage. Pilgrimage. When
Correct.
does it start, and when does it end, and
Right.
how ties into those dates of the war exactly? So can you briefly mention
Right.
about?
Right. So Balrama's pilgrimage is the one of the most important things which almost no other researcher is able to corroborate. And what is that? The verse goes in Shalya Parva, chapter 33, verse 5-6. The second part of the verse is Pushena samprayatosmi shravane punaragataha. There is another verse in chapter 34 also, which is saying basically Rohinyaye gate shure pushena madhusudana. So what it is saying is starting on a Pushya nakshatra, ending on a Shravana nakshatra. You see, this 42-day pilgrimage, and so we know the last day of the pilgrimage has to be the day of the war, last day of the war also.
Okay, so
And
from
based on the
Shravana, you
14th,
calculate so many days back. So when did pilgrimage start? So from there, you calculate that. Okay.
right, so 1st November of 3067 BC is a Pushya nakshatra, and at sunrise it is actually so it is a Guruvar, and it is a Pushya nakshatra, and as part of my three Pushya theory, the Pushya nakshatra before that, 27 days before that, October 5th, I think that was, is Duryodhana's refusal of the all the whatever was
Krishna's
peace, etc. He refused all
Krishna's
that.
peace. Okay.
Right, right.
So,
And the
so
last day
Krishna's
of the
peace
pilgrimage is the last day
mission
of the
also
war.
happened on Krishna's peace mission also happened on a Pushya nakshatra.
So Krishna's peace mission actually started on a Revati nakshatra, and that Revati nakshatra takes three. He starts at Upaplavya. He goes from Upaplavya. 3 days later, he reaches Hastinapur, and
Okay.
that
So what
Hastinapur.
date is that in month wise?
Sorry.
That is also 67 BCE. At what month? Which month?
So 3067 BCE, basically, it goes into that September sort of time frame. You can find out the September, October, basically that entire thing. We actually have the lunar phases all the way from the first day of Krishna setting out on the mission of peace right to Bhishma Ashtami,
Okay.
Bhishma Moksha. We are the only Mahabharat researchers to corroborate that with the 14th night, war night, waning phase moonrise,
Okay.
which a lot of researchers have taken as waxing moon, by the way.
Okay. Okay. So on Balrama returns on the 18th day.
Balrama has to return on the 18th day. That day has to be Amavasya. That is the whole problem, because there is another
And
two verses which are saying that. So this becomes, you see how
so
rigorous
that
this
fixes
becomes.
the date on. So that fixes the date on December. You
12th.
said 12th.
December 12th is the last day of the so let me again say November 1st, first day of the pilgrimage, then November 25th, first day of the war, then December 18th is December 12th is the 18th day of the war, right? December 12th, 18th day of the war. That last day will be a Shravana Nakshatra, and it has to be Amavasya. Now, it is not a Shravana at sunrise, but it will become Shravana at around 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning. And that corroborates really well with Balrama returning sort of after noon. You see, he returns afterwards, and then they go to one of the Tirtha places, and there the Gada Yuddha is actually fought. And there is another verse there which says it's a Amavasya.
So the
When
Gada
Duryodhana
Yuddha
is killed.
happens on an Amavasya.
Yes, and in that year, again, this is very difficult. This Pushya to Shravana, 42 days, and ending on Amavasya, right? So therefore, this sort of corroboration is damn difficult in any other year. In most years, what happens is, you see, I'll give you
So
one
based on,
particular
so this can happen only on that particular year,
right.
based on all your
Exactly.
calculations, or be it other
Exactly.
people's research and the software calculations you've done. So
Exactly.
and when you've mapped these stars in this particular positions, you came to this conclusion it can happen only in this particular year.
Correct, correct. Because all these things together, you see, that's the problem. See, and then that Bhishma thing also, that's such a rigorous condition.
Okay.
See, so these Tithi Nakshatras are very difficult to corroborate for any other year. They all basically say, no, no, conflicting observation, or just say, no, no, it's okay, we won't corroborate it, because otherwise it is very difficult. It is the
I
one of the
understand.
most rigorous conditions.
Okay. Okay.
Fascinating. Fascinating. But if three eclipses made so much difference to our history, do you think the three eclipses in 2020 to 2020 is going to make the same kind of changes with what's happening in the country today?
So it's not just the eclipses, because I think I've mentioned it on Twitter a few times, because people keep asking me, people get very scared, you see, all the while. And And I keep trying to tell them, no, it's not quite just the eclipses. Although, if you see what has happened in the run-up to these eclipses, what happened in the US, especially,
Yes.
was quite frightening. Actually,
Yes.
it was quite something. And in
Yeah.
fact, the ones which happened in December also, with the
Yes.
bushfires in Australia
Yes.
and things.
Yes.
So that you do see those sort of events occurring, but for everything to occur in 1 year, and all and comets, you see, that's the thing. You see, if there are comets also occurring, cometary phenomena, or which can be mapped to the Saptarishis and everything, if they occur in 1 year. Now in this year it did happen, some of those things did happen, but Saturn is not at Rohini, Mars is still not retrogressing before Antares, you see, and Jupiter is not at Ashwini Nakshatra in
Okay.
Gandanta.
Okay. So not so bad.
So it's I mean, in the
That's
grand scheme of things, as we can
We
say.
have called to an end. It's very fascinating. You can go on and on and on. It's such a rich subject, and anyway, it's quite clear you have made a great deal of research in it, and we hope one of these days we have an international conference when all this corona has gone. Is any of you got Arvind or Jagdish got any questions? Can you hear? Unmuted.
Jagdish,
you're mute.
No, it was very informative. So, and we have gone way beyond the program.
Yes, that's right.
Our viewers are
Probably the longest one we have had.
Yeah, our viewers are quite thrilled with the knowledge which Ms. Dr. Manish Pandit has shared with us, and what even Dr. Swamy shared. Many people did not know this facet of Dr. Swamy's history. He also has deep knowledge.
Right.
Times he has spoken, but 1968 he referred
Right.
which he had published. So I think Professor Arvind Chaturvedi will conclude the program. But it was very informative. Arvind, आप बोलिए.
धन्यवाद डॉक्टर पंडित. If you are comfortable, I'll ask you something in Hindi.
बिल्कुल बताइए.
आपने बहुत ही तर्कपूर्ण विश्लेषण देके ग्रहों और नक्षत्रों की जो पोजीशन है उनके हिसाब से आपने जो गणना की है काल की, महाभारत आपने 3067 बीसी में बताया, और ये एक सनातन धर्म के इतिहास में एक विवाद सा रहा है कि चाहे वो रामायण की काल गणना हो या महाभारत की काल गणना हो, इसमें हमेशा समय को लेकर एक विवाद हमेशा बना रहा है. डॉक्टर स्वामी ने 2013 में एक पुस्तक लिखी थी, विराट हिंदू आइडेंटिटी. उस पुस्तक में डॉक्टर स्वामी ने एक चैप्टर इसी विषय पर डाला था. उन्होंने तमाम जो हमारे विद्वान हैं अलग अलग क्षेत्रों के भारत के, उनकी आकलन के हिसाब से बताया था कि रामायण की जो काल गणना है वो 7000 बीसी से लेके 10,000 बीसी तक है, और अभी विवेकानंद इंडिया फाउंडेशन ने एक बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट चलाया है, और उनके हिसाब से इसकी रामायण की काल गणना 5114 रामचंद्र जी का, भगवान राम का जन्मदिन होना चाहिए, और 5076 बीसी 5076 BC should be the Ravana's killing. Now thing is कि इस विवाद को अंत करने के लिए या एक विश्वस्त नीति में पहुंचने के लिए क्या हम कोई ऐसी गणना भी कर सकते हैं कि बताएं कि त्रेता युग में जब भगवान राम थे या द्वापर युग में जब श्री कृष्ण थे, उन दोनों के बीच में गैप कितना था? इस गैप की भी कोई एनालिसिस हो सकती है क्या? क्योंकि अगर हम एक जगह तर्कपूर्ण स्थिति से पहुंच सकते हैं तो उस गैप के सहारे हम पूरी काल गणना को, पूरे इतिहास को हम समझ सकते हैं. तो एक सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा ये है, और दूसरा ये है कि ये विवाद प्लेनेटरी कॉम्बिनेशन, प्लेनेटरी सॉफ्टवेयर आजकल बहुत आसानी से उपलब्ध हैं, और अनेक विद्वानों ने अपने अपने आकलन किए हैं. तो डॉक्टर पंडित हमें बताइए, बिफोर वी कंक्लूड द प्रोग्राम, that how do we reach one point of conclusion, whether it is Lord Krishna's birth or Mahabharata or Lord Rama's birth or Ramayana, before we conclude the program.
तो बहुत बहुत बढ़िया आपने प्रश्न पूछा है. और इसका एक बहुत सीधा सा मैं आंसर, पहला जो सेकंड पॉइंट आपने जो बताया कि हम कैसे इस चीज पे विश्वास करें कि ये सत्य है कि ये झूठ है, मतलब ये हाउ डू कम टू दैट, राइट? तो ये मैं जरा एक क्विकली बताता हूँ। 4 टाइमलाइन है वॉर के, एक वॉर का, एक मिशन ऑफ पीस का जो उसके पहले हुआ, बलराम की पिलग्रिमेज का, और एक भीष्म मोक्ष का। ये 4 टाइमलाइन के तिथि और नक्षत्र के साथ एग्जैक्ट करने वाला कोरॉबरेशन, मतलब एग्जैक्ट प्रूफ के साथ, एग्जैक्ट स्क्रीनशॉट्स के साथ अपलोडेड है, मेरे ब्लॉग पे भी है, मेरे किताब में भी है। सिर्फ 3067 बीसी ये कर सकता है, और ये कई सालों से मतलब पता है लोगों को कि ये जो डेट है ये बड़ी बड़ी अजीब सी डेट है कि इस चीज में बहुत सारी चीजें बैठती हैं। उसके ऊपर जो शनि, गुरु और मंगल, ये परफेक्ट एकदम, और बुध, ये इतने परफेक्ट बैठ रहे हैं उसमें कि इट इज अगेन अनबिलीवेबल थिंग। अरुंधति वशिष्ठ का जो ये जो विश्लेषण किया है वो भी परफेक्ट बैठता है, और एंड प्लस तिथि नक्षत्र और 14th नाइट की मून राइज विजिबल है कि नहीं, ये सब परफेक्ट बैठ रहा है। तो ये जो डेट है ये, एंड आई विल बी कमिंग आउट, एक और किताब मेरी आएगी जिसमें मैं आई विल शो यू एग्जैक्टली कि बाकी डेट्स में क्या प्रॉब्लम्स हैं। तो मतलब वैसे भी लोग हमें पूछते ही रहते हैं कि मतलब और क्या प्रॉब्लम है और नहीं है, तो वो पहली बात हुई आपकी। अच्छा, आपने एक और पूछा था कि रामायण के बारे में आपने पूछा हमें। अभी रामायण का चक्कर ये है कि उसमें 3 ऑब्जर्वेशन ऐसे हैं जो बड़े अजीब से हैं। एक ऑब्जर्वेशन ऐसा है जो 4 जगह लिखा हुआ है कि एलिफेंट पाए गए हैं रामायण में। सुंदरकांड में 2 जगह पे है, अयोध्या कांड में 1 जगह पे है, और ये कह रहे हैं कि एलिफेंट विद 4 टस्क्स आर सीन। अब ये बड़ा चक्कर हो गया, बिकॉज एलिफेंट विद 4 टस्क्स मतलब yes, it has been seen up to maybe 3000 4000 years BC, but you know elephant कब थे? So that is going back to that 10,000 BCE sort of time frame, that and before. That is first problem. Second problem is a verse, एक वर्स है बहुत अजीब सा वर्स, जो कहता है कि विंध्या पर्वत और हिमालय पर्वत एक दूसरे के तरफ देख रहे हैं, उसी इक्वल, मतलब इक्वल दृष्टि, इक्वल हाइट से। अच्छा, अगर सत्य है तो ये हमें लेके जा रहा है, तो ये बड़ा चक्कर हो रहा है। ये दूसरा प्रॉब्लम आ गया मेरे पास, बिकॉज सी साइंस का प्रॉब्लम ये हो जाता है कि आपके पास अगर कुछ आपके सामने दिखाया जाता है तो उसको ऐसे ही हम बाहर नहीं कर सकते, हमें वो उसको सोचना पड़ता है कि भाई वो सत्य हो सकता है, झूठ हो सकता है, और उसका कंक्लूजन क्या आएगा। सो 2 3 चतुर्दंष्ट्र, 4 मोलर्स, श्री राम को डिस्क्राइब किया गया है एक या 2 जगह पे 4 मोलर्स के साथ। अभी 4 मोलर्स के लिए अभी आपके जो स्कल है उसमें तो जगह है सिर्फ 2 मोलर्स के लिए, तो 4 मोलर के लिए जगह आएगा कहाँ से? मतलब स्कल का साइज ज्यादा बड़ा है क्या? मतलब यू नो, आई मीन दिस बिकम्स सच अ ह्यूज प्रॉब्लम। एंड माय गुरु यूज्ड टू ऑलवेज से कि ये एक्चुअली अगर त्रेता युग, मतलब एक्चुअली त्रेता युग का था, अभी हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता, इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस टू form an opinion, but for the moment we can say it is ancient, far more ancient than Mahabharata. Therefore 3067 BC अगर महाभारत है तो ये you know it can definitely be more ancient than that. So that is the only एक पॉइंट पे हम आ सकते हैं at the moment. हाँ जी,
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर पंडित। आपने बहुत ही तर्कपूर्ण विश्लेषण दिया, लॉजिकल एनालिसिस आई वुड से, and of course Dr. Swamy has been writing on this issue for several years now. All his books, wherever he has mentioned about the correct perception of Indian history, is also brought to the notice the research done by various research scholars using various methods of research, and of course various conclusions. And as I said earlier, these are not unique conclusions. There are always some question which can be raised about this validity of this time period, but it is very fascinating. And in fact I've seen your videos also. तो आपने रोहिणी और शनि की जो ग्रह दशा बताई, उस वो भी तर्क बहुत वजनदार तर्क है, और I think should be convincing for people
हाँ
to
जी,
believe. And of course ASI may come up with different evidences through expeditions and all that. They may come up in another history, but Thank you very much for devoting so much time for us. In fact, we have run into almost 90 minutes, which is one of the longest programs
Yes.
of the Words of Wisdom. Dr. Swamy,
Compliments.
thank you so much for raising the issue and giving such an elaborate introduction on this topic. And of course, you have been writing over this issue. Thanks also to Mr. Ramesh Swamy. He has experimented today a new format for this show. And of course, this technology he masters, and only his contribution can improve this program as he has been doing earlier. Thanks also to Mr. Jagdish Shetty. In fact, let me just tell you, Dr. Pandit, we are reaching 110 countries and we have crossed more than 45 million impressions.
My God.
सभी दर्शकों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. ये विषय एक अनंत बहस का विषय है और जरूरी नहीं है कि हम 90 मिनट के प्रोग्राम में किसी नतीजे पर पहुंचे और किसी कंक्लूजन पर पहुंचे, लेकिन आपने समय दिया, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. हम इसी श्रृंखला में अगले रविवार को 4 जुलाई को वर्ड ऑफ विजडम ज्ञान गंगा के नए प्रोग्राम में फिर मिलेंगे डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी के साथ, एक नए विषय के साथ. जो हमारी टेक्निकल टीम है, मिस्टर आशीष शेट्टी, गडगी रमेश, तेजस, स्वामीनाथन, इन सभी लोगों का धन्यवाद करते हुए दर्शकों से विदा. नमस्कार, जय हिंद.
Just one last point. I mean, I'm sorry, this is a short program. I mean, you have covered so much. We could actually do it longer. So, as Dr. Swamy said, in the future, probably we'd have a longer session. So we could probably do a mini workshop.
Yeah, we'll do a seminar. Yeah.
Yeah, do a
Very
seminar.
kind of you.
Thank you.
धन्यवाद.
नमस्कार.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, बहुत धन्यवाद.